The vibration of my phone cuts through the chaos of the ER like a scalpel. 3 trauma cases in the last hour, and now the device buzzes against my hip with an urgency that makes my stomach clench. No one calls during my shift unless something is wrong. I duck into the supply closet, tearing off my blood-spattered gloves. The caller ID shows Sophia's name, and my heart pounds against my ribs. "Honey, what's wrong?" Her voice comes through, choked with sobs. "Mom, my key doesn't work anymore." "What do you mean it doesn't work?" I press the phone closer to my ear, straining to hear her over the hospital announcements. I put it in and it won't turn. Sophia's words tumble out between ragged breaths. I'm outside and it's raining really hard and Whiskers won't stop crying in his carrier. I close my eyes, trying to picture the scene. My 12-year-old daughter standing on our porch, her backpack soaked, clutching the cat carrier while rain pours down around her. Where's Grandma? Or Brooke? Nobody's answering the door. I can see lights on inside, but nobody comes when I knock. Cold dread washes through me. "I'll be right there, honey. Go to the side porch where there's more cover." I'm leaving now. I burst out of the supply closet, nearly colliding with Dr. Ramirez. The ER is a battlefield of stretchers and monitors, and the constant beeping of vital signs. "Elena, we need you in Bay 3. The GSW from the pile-up needs." My daughter's locked out of the house. The words taste like panic on my tongue. "I have to go." He blinks at me. "We're swamped. Can someone else get her?" There is no one else. The truth of those words hits me with startling clarity. There never has been. I push past him toward the nurse's station, where Supervisor Hayes is updating charts, her eyes narrow as I approach. "Laura, I need to leave." "Family emergency." She sighs heavily. "Elena, we're short 3 nurses already. Can it wait until—" "My father just died, Laura." The words land between us with the weight of the earth. "Go." "Ken." The rain is coming down in sheets by the time I pull into our driveway. Through the windshield wipers, I can make out Sophia's small figure huddled under the side porch overhang. Her hair is plastered to her head, uniform soaked through. The cat carrier at her feet emits miserable yowls. I leave the car running and sprint through the downpour, water soaking through my scrubs in seconds. "I'm here, baby. I'm here. I'm here." Sophia collapses against me, her body shaking. "Why doesn't my key work?" "I don't know, honey." I stroke her wet hair, my mind racing. "Let me try mine." We move to the front door and I notice the curtains shift slightly in the living room window. Someone's home. My key slides in but won't turn, just as Sophia said. I pound on the door. "Hello? Vivian? Brooke, open up." The door swings open and I find myself face to face with my mother. Vivian stands in the entryway, wine glass in hand, her silver hair perfectly coiffed. Behind her, my half-sister Brooke leans against the wall, swirling her own glass of red wine. "Well." Vivian takes a slow sip, her eyes traveling over our drenched figures. "You got here faster than I expected." "What's going on?" I ask, trying to usher Sophia inside. "Why aren't our keys working?" Vivian blocks the doorway with surprising firmness for a 65-year-old woman. "We've decided you and Sophia don't live here anymore." The words don't make sense at first, like they're in a language I don't speak. "What are you talking about?" "This is our home." "Not anymore." Brooke steps forward, smirking. She points toward the street. "Your things are on the curb. What's left of them anyway?" The rain's been pretty brutal today. I follow her gesture and see cardboard boxes disintegrating in the downpour. Clothes and books spilling onto the sodden lawn. My medical textbooks. Sophia's school projects. Our lives dissolving in the rain. Whiskers lets out another pitiful meow from his carrier, his cries cutting through the sound of rainfall. Something cold and hard settles in my chest. I look at Vivian, at the woman who gave birth to me, who I moved back home to help when Dad got sick, and see nothing familiar in her eyes. "Understood." My voice comes out quiet but steady. Brooke's eyebrows rise, like she's disappointed by my lack of hysterics. 2 years ago, I'd given up my downtown apartment, paused a promotion track at the hospital, to move back and care for my terminally ill father, Dr. Edward Thompson had been respected by everyone except, apparently, his own wife. I'd fallen into the familiar pattern, stepping in when others stepped back, working 14-hour hospital shifts, then coming home to manage medications, appointments, and the household while Vivian played bridge and Brooke visited only when "You've always been the strong one, Elena." I'd made an unspoken promise to hold our family together after his death. I just hadn't expected to be fighting for survival quite so literally. "Come on, Sophia," I say softly, turning away from the door. "Let's get our things." We walk back into the rain, toward the soggy boxes on the curb. Sophia's shoulders are shaking, but she doesn't cry. She's her mother's daughter. I pop the trunk of my Honda CR-V and start gathering what I can salvage. Books with warped pages. Photo albums where colors bleed together like watercolors. Sophia's science fair ribbon. The ink running down the fabric. Vivian steps onto the porch, watching us. "Your father spoiled you," she calls out. "This was always my house." I notice the neighbors' faces in windows across the street, watching the spectacle. Mrs. Ellis, with her hand over her mouth. The Harrisons, whispering to each other behind their curtains. I walk back to the door one last time, rain streaming down my face. We'll be at the residence inn on 5th, I say calmly. Forward our mail. Sophia tugs at my soaked scrub top. But Grandpa's books are still inside, she whispers, her voice breaking for the first time. I squeeze her hand and look directly into Vivian's eyes. Trust me, honey. This isn't over. Something flickers across my mother's face. Surprise, perhaps, at not finding the doormat she's used to walking over. Behind her, Brooke refills her wine glass, but her hand isn't quite steady. As we drive away, I catch a glimpse of Vivian in the rearview mirror, still standing on the porch. For a moment, I see what's always been there. Not maternal love, but resentment. Resentment of the bond I shared with my father. A bond she never had. The rain drums on the roof of the car. Beside me, Sophia cradles Whiskers' carrier. Ahead of us, uncertainty. But for the first time in 2 years, I feel something unexpected unfurling in my chest. It feels strangely like freedom. The residence inn room looks like a hurricane aftermath the next day. Soggy cardboard boxes form islands across the beige carpet. Sophia's school uniform drapes over the shower rod, still dripping. Whiskers huddles beneath the desk, his orange fur matted and damp, refusing to come out. I've laid out every salvaged possession like artifacts at an archaeological dig, cataloging what survived the rain and what didn't. My nursing textbooks with warped pages. Sophia's science project notes bleeding into illegibility. A family photo where my father's face has blurred into a watercolor ghost. David Lawson's office. A crisp voice answers on the 4th ring. This is Elena Thompson, I say, pressing the phone against my ear. I need to speak with David immediately. It's about my father's estate. I'm sorry, Miss Thompson, but Mr. Lawson is in court today and tell him it's Edward Thompson, daughter, and that Vivian has locked us out of the house. Silence hangs on the line before the receptionist says, hold please. David's voice comes through moments later, breathless. Elena, what's happening? I explain the situation in the clinical, detached way I report patient conditions, locked doors, changed locks, possessions in the rain. Facts without emotion. That's impossible, David interrupts. Elena, your father transferred the house to you and Sophia's trust 6 months ago. The room seems to tilt sideways. What? Edward put the house in a trust for you and Sophia. Vivian has no legal right to be there, let alone lock you out. I sink onto the edge of the bed, legs suddenly unable to support me. Why wouldn't he tell me? There's a letter with the documents. He asked me not to mention it until it became necessary. Sophia emerges from the bathroom, her hair wrapped in a hotel towel. She watches me with eyes too old for her 12 years. I'm coming to your office, I tell David. Now an hour later, I'm staring at legal documents spread across David's mahogany desk. Property transfer forms, trust agreements. All signed, notarized, and filed with the county. Your father was very thorough, David says, sliding a sealed envelope toward me. He wanted you to have this if something like this happened. The envelope bears my name and my father's distinctive doctor's scrawl. I break the seal and unfold a single page. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, then Vivian has done exactly what I feared she might. The house is yours and Sophia's now. It always was, in my heart. Vivian has never appreciated what she has, not the home, not you, and certainly not me. I've watched her resentment grow over the years, especially toward you. You returned home when I needed you most, sacrificing everything. You've always been the one who carries others, even when your own shoulders are breaking. Take care of our girl, and the home will take care of you both. All my love. Dad. A single tear lands on the signature, blurring the ink like rain on cardboard. Your father knew this might happen, David says quietly. We have everything we need for an emergency injunction. Vivian and Brooke are there illegally. My phone buzzes with a text from Lisa Hargrove, our neighbor across the street. They're rearranging furniture and painting your bedroom. Brooke's SUV has been going back and forth all day with more things. Brooke has moved in completely, I tell David, showing him the text, within 24 hours of locking us out. David's mouth tightens. This was planned well in advance. I need to understand what we're up against, I say, the nurse and me needing a full assessment before treatment. What can they do? Vivian is your mother. She'll use that claim you abandoned your father, that you're an unfit mother to Sophia. David hesitates. Brooke called me this morning actually, said she's concerned about your mental health after your father's death, that you've been erratic. Erratic. I repeat, heat rising in my chest. She mentioned Brooke's husband Mark already has his eye on converting your father's study for the twins. Another text buzzes through from Lisa. The boys are jumping on Sophia's bed. I can see them through the window. Something shifts inside me. I stand and walk to the window overlooking downtown Austin. My hospital ID badge hangs from my neck, the laminated photo showing a woman in scrubs ready to save lives. I catch my reflection in the glass eyes, hard as river stones, jawline set. I save strangers every day, I whisper. It's time I saved us. Behind me, Sophia looks up from the box she's sorting. She watches me with cautious hope, like someone observing the first sprout pushing through scorched earth. This isn't about revenge, I tell David, turning back to the desk. It's about justice. I make 3 decisions in rapid succession, the way I triage patients in a mass casualty. I'm calling in sick for the next 3 days. I need to build our case. David nods, already pulling out forms. I'll file for emergency possession. Your father knew this might happen, Elena. He left everything prepared. Back at the hotel, I find Rachel Bennett waiting in the lobby with 2 suitcases. She says simply, clean scrubs, clothes for both of you, and real shampoo instead of those tiny hotel bottles. I haven't cried since finding my father's body 2 weeks ago, but Rachel's kindness nearly breaks me. Sophia's teacher, Miss Lawson, arrives an hour later with schoolwork and a quiet strength that reminds me of my father. Sophia is one of our strongest students. She tells me privately, and I've documented everything she's said about the situation for your records. By evening, the hotel room has transformed from disaster zone to command center. David has arranged a meeting with the bank manager, who confirms the trust details and offers a temporary credit line against the home's equity. Your father's foresight was remarkable, the manager tells me. The trust is ironclad. The phone rings again, a number I don't recognize. Elena, it's Beatrice, my mother's younger sister, whom I haven't spoken to in years. Beatrice, I say carefully. I know her voice is tight with anger. She's been planning this since Edward's diagnosis. She told me at Christmas she was going to reclaim her life once he was gone. Why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me this? Because what she's doing is wrong, Beatrice says simply. And because Brooke has already listed some of your father's medical equipment on Facebook Marketplace. I have screenshots. By midnight, the emergency court filing is submitted. My savings account is nearly depleted from the legal retainer, but for the first time in days, I feel something close to hope. Sophia sits on the edge of the hotel bed, stroking Whiskers, who has finally emerged from under the desk. I miss Fluffy, she says quietly. Her second cat, still trapped in the house. We'll get her back, I promise. And Grandpa's books? Everything, Sophia, I promise. She studies my face with that penetrating gaze she inherited from my father. Mom, yes. The hardest person to stand up to is your mother. She repeats the line from a book we read together last summer, but the words carry the weight of ancient wisdom now. I sit beside her, drawing her close. Yes, but not as hard as letting her hurt you. My phone lights up with a text from David. The law is unquestionably on your side. Outside, rain taps against the window, gentler than before. Not washing things away this time, but cleaning them, making them new. Vivian's Facebook post appeared on my phone at 3:15 a week later. I'd been awake anyway, staring at the hotel ceiling, listening to Sophia's gentle breathing from the next bed. Please pray for our family during this difficult time, my mother had written. After Edward's passing, Elena has chosen to abandon the family home where she was raised. Some grief manifests as rebellion, even in adults. Your support means everything. 27 sympathetic comments already. Hearts and prayer hands from church members who'd known me since childhood. I set the phone down without replying. Documentation, not reaction. That's what David had emphasized yesterday. Mom? Sophia's voice came from the darkness. You okay? Just checking messages, honey. Go back to sleep. I can't. Mrs. Peterson sent me a weird text. Brooke told her mom I might not be at school because of your mental health issues. The words hit like ice water. Brooke had started spinning stories at Sophia's school. By morning, the wolves were circling. Aunt Margaret called while I was in the shower. Uncle Thomas, while we ate breakfast. Cousin Emily during our drive to David's office. All of them concerned about my erratic behavior since Dad's death. They're creating a narrative, David said, spreading documents across his desk. Vivian's refusing certified letters. 3 attempts already. I nodded, flipping open my notebook. Brooke's husband Mark followed me into the hospital parking garage last night. Said I was making things harder than they need to be. David's eyebrows shot up. Did anyone witness this? Security cameras would have. I've already requested the footage. A smile touched the corner of David's mouth. You're getting good at this. The wall calendar behind him showed today's date circled in red. 1 week since the lockout. 1 week since everything changed. My nurses are documenting every minute I spent at the hospital while caring for Dad. I said, tapping my pen against the notebook. Darker. Nichols is preparing a statement about Dad's mental competency when he made the trust changes. The sheriff's office confirmed they'll enforce any court order we receive, David added, and I spoke with hospital administration this morning. They're offering their full support. Something unfamiliar flickered in my chest. Not the panic of that first night, not the stunned disbelief of learning Dad had transferred the house to me. Something steadier, calmer. I need my daughter's birth certificate, I said, and Dad's medical files. They're in the filing cabinet in his study. David's pen paused mid-note. We can request duplicates through. I want the originals. Today. 40 minutes later, I parked 3 houses down from what was legally my home. The cruiser I'd arranged sat quietly at the corner, Officer Ramirez giving me a subtle nod. The walkway to the front door felt both familiar and foreign. 7 days ago, I'd stood here, soaked to the skin, watching my life unravel. Today, my footsteps sounded different on the concrete. Vivian answered on the third knock, her face freezing in mid-smile as she registered who stood before her. "You're not welcome here," she said, hand-gripping the door edge. I pressed record on my phone, holding it visibly. "I'm legally requesting my daughter's birth certificate and my father's medical records." Brooke appeared behind Vivian, her face flushing. "We'll call the police if you don't leave. I've already notified them I'd be here." I nodded toward Officer Ramirez, who'd stepped out of his cruiser. "This is a documented request for my legal property." Vivian's eyes welled with tears, a familiar tactic that had worked on me countless times before. "After everything I've done for you." When the tears didn't move me, something shifted in her expression. The sadness hardened into something sharper, more dangerous. "You think you can take what's mine?" Her voice cut like glass. "Your father never appreciated me either." Daniels watered her flower beds across the street, pretending not to listen. Mr. Wilson slowed his walk, dog pausing conveniently near our driveway. "The filing cabinet and Dad's study," I repeated. "I'll wait here while you bring the documents." 10 minutes later, I walked back to my car with a manila envelope. Inside was the original birth certificate and a folder containing Dad's medical history. Small victories. Necessary ones. The next morning, Dr. Rachel Bennett met me in the hospital cafeteria before my shift. "I've completed my statement about your father's care," she said, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. 2 years of watching you run yourself ragged, caring for him while working full-time. No jury would question your dedication. Mrs. Lawson, Sophia's teacher, called that afternoon. "I've documented Sophia's relationship with her grandfather," she said. "How he attended every school function when you were working. How she read to him daily during his illness." By evening, David had filed an emergency possession order with 17 signed affidavits. "Beatrice called," he said when I arrived at his office. "Vivian's been photographing family heirlooms for an estate sale website." I felt my jaw tighten. "Dad's collection, and your grandmother's silver. The antique furniture from the library." The hospital chaplain, Father Ellis, had left a message on my phone. He'd provided a character witness statement about my visits with Dad, the prayers we'd shared, the family Bible I'd brought to his bedside. People were choosing sides, not the sides Vivian had anticipated. Thursday brought the shift I'd been waiting for. The judge reviewed our case and expedited the hearing date. "I want to deliver this personally," David said, holding up the notice of eviction. His eyes gleamed with something between mischief and justice. I sat in my car across the street, watching as David approached the front door in his crisp suit. Vivian answered, accepting the certified letter with obvious reluctance. Through the windshield, I watched her face as she read the opening lines. The letter trembled in her hands when she reached the declaration. Property owner, Elena Thompson. Brooke appeared in the doorway, phone pressed to her ear, lips moving rapidly as she called their attorney. Vivian didn't move, the paper still clutched in her hands as David walked back to his car. For the first time since this began, I saw something besides manipulation in my mother's expression. Understanding. The realization that I wouldn't back down. That evening, David spread our documentation across his conference table, like a general mapping a battlefield. Court affidavits from 3 of Dad's doctors confirming his mental competency. Trust documents with the ownership transfer timeline highlighted. The photographs I'd taken of our belongings on the curb, rainwater seeping through cardboard. Sophia shivering under the porch light. "The calendar is particularly powerful," David said, pointing to the color-coded schedule I'd maintained. Green for Dad's appointments, blue for medication changes, red for emergency room visits. 2 years of caretaking condensed into 12 meticulous pages. And these, he added, tapping the financial records, showing every mortgage payment I'd made. Every utility bill I'd covered while Vivian spent her widow's pension on bridge club dues and weekend trips to Galveston. "The law doesn't care about feelings," David said, gathering the papers into a leather portfolio. "It cares about facts." My phone buzzed as I pulled into the hotel parking lot that evening. A text from David. Court date moved up. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Sophia sat cross-legged on the hotel bed, whiskers purring in her lap when I told her, "What happens if we lose Mom?" Her voice sounded so small, nothing like the confident 12-year-old who'd aced her science presentation last month. I sat beside her, running my hand over Whiskers' soft fur. "We won't. Your grandfather made sure of that." Later, after Sophia fell asleep, I opened the folder I hadn't shown David. Inside was a handwritten letter from Dad to the judge, dated 3 weeks before his death, explaining why he'd transferred the house to me instead of his wife of 40 years. His elegant doctor's handwriting filled 3 pages with truths Vivian never wanted exposed. Tomorrow the final battle, but tonight, for the first time since the rain-soaked lockout, I slept without waking. The courthouse gleams like a fortress in the morning sun as I adjust my blazer. No scrubs today. Today I am not Elena the nurse, but Elena the plaintiff, fighting for what's rightfully mine. Sophia stands beside me, her posture straight despite her trembling hand in mine. "Ready," David, Lawson asks, briefcase bulging with our ammunition. I nod. We've prepared for this. Inside, the polished floors reflect our determined faces. Courtroom B smells of furniture polish and nervous sway. I scan the room and freeze Vivian and Brooke already seated, heads bent in conspiratorial whispers. My mother looks up, her practiced smile faltering when she sees the calm in my eyes. No hysteria, no begging. Just quiet certainty. David begins arranging documents on our table. The judge assigned to our case is thorough. She'll appreciate our attention to detail. Will they make me talk? Sophia whispers, her eyes fixed on Brooke's twin boys slouching in the back row. Only if you want to, I tell her, though David had prepared her just in case. Judge Margaret Sinclair enters, her silver hair pulled back severely, eyes missing nothing. Thompson family trust dispute, temporary possession hearing, she announces, settling into her chair. David rises first, presenting a leather portfolio. Your Honor, we've prepared a complete timeline documenting Dr. Edward Thompson decisions regarding his property. He unfolds chart, dates, signatures, witness statements, irrefutable evidence of my father's intentions. We have affidavits from 3 separate physicians confirming Dr. Thompson was of sound mind when he transferred property ownership. David continues, placing documents before the judge, his oncologist, neurologist, and primary care physician of over 2 decades. David pulls out financial records next, bank statements demonstrating Mrs. Vivian Thompson minimal financial contributions to household expenses, while Ms. Elena Thompson covered property taxes and maintenance costs alongside her father. I notice Vivian's attorney shifting uncomfortably. Brooke's face darkens with every new document David presents. Additionally, David says, tapping his tablet, we have video deposition from attorney Robert Hayes, who prepared the original trust documents. The courtroom screen flickers to life. My father's attorney appears, gray and dignified. Thompson was explicit in his wishes. The property was to transfer to his daughter Elena and granddaughter Sophia's trust upon his death. He had concerns that Mrs. Thompson might attempt to circumvent his intentions. Vivian's gasp is audible across the room. Our final witness approaches Miss Susan Mallory, Sophia's school counselor, a woman with unshakable professionalism. Sophia has exhibited significant distress since being forcibly removed from her home. She testifies. Nightmares, anxiety, decreased academic performance. The stability of her home environment was critical following her grandfather's death. I squeeze Sophia's hand under the table. She's staring straight ahead, chin raised just like my father's used to be when facing a difficult diagnosis. The judge nods. Let's hear from the respondents. Vivian's attorney rises, Harold Blake, expensive suit, artificial smile. Your Honor, this entire situation stems from a tragic misunderstanding. Mrs. Thompson had every intention of allowing her daughter and granddaughter to remain in the house temporarily. Vivian produces a handkerchief, dabbing at invisible tears. I cared for my husband throughout his illness. She claims, voice quivering perfectly, throughout our marriage, tending to his every need. Elena was rarely home, always at the hospital. My fingers curl into my palm, nails biting flesh, a lie so blatant it steals my breath. Brooke approaches next, armed with photographs. Here's our family at Christmas, she says, showing images of forced smiles. And here's Mom helping Dad with his medication. One carefully curated moment caught on camera, ignoring the 100 times I'd found his pills untouched when I returned from shifts. Character witnesses from our church file forward people who'd visited for an hour on Sundays. Elena was rarely present for church functions, Mrs. Thornton says, avoiding my eyes. Vivian was always there, asking for prayers for her husband, praying publicly while neglecting him privately. The lockout was unfortunate, Blake concludes, but necessary tough love. Elena has become increasingly dependent at her age. Judge Sinclair's expression reveals nothing as she makes notes. For one terrible moment, I see doubt in her eyes. My turn comes. I rise slowly, channeling every ounce of professional composure I've developed in emergency rooms. Your Honor, I moved home 2 years ago specifically to care for my father during his illness. I begin, my voice steady. I coordinated my hospital shifts around his care needs. David presents my work schedules alongside my father's treatment calendars, showing how I'd arranged everything around being home when he needed me most. The courtroom door opens. A familiar figure slips in Vivian's sister Beatrice, whom I haven't seen since the funeral. Vivian's face contorts in surprise. Miss Beatrice Blackwell has requested to provide testimony, David announces. Beatrice walks forward. I visited my brother-in-law weekly during his illness. She states firmly. On numerous occasions, I found him alone while my sister was at social engagements. It was Elena who adjusted his medications, prepared his meals, and ensured his comfort. Vivian half rises before her attorney pulls her back down. David produces a sealed envelope. Your Honor, Dr. Thompson anticipated potential disputes. He prepared this letter to be presented to the court if necessary. Gaia. The judge breaks the seal, reading silently. Her eyebrows rise. Mom. Sophia's voice breaks the tension. Can I say something? Judge Sinclair softens. Come forward, young lady. Sophia walks to the stand, her school uniform impeccable. My grandfather taught me chess in his study every Sunday afternoon. She begins. Even when he was really sick, he told me the house would always be there